Hello and welcome to Andy's FPL Apprentice. I've got a slightly different video for you today. Last week I did my watch list video, but I wanted to talk about a few things around the game week and not just players on my watch list. So this is my takeaways from game week 2 and hopefully a few tips leading into game week 3. So first of all, I've got big at the back, still the way forward? And the answer for me is yes. I think there's a few players that I sort of had maybe a few doubts about leading into the season. Was Cancelo going to continue his output from last year? Was Haaland going to change the way that he played? But he's been so attacking, obviously got himself an assist in the last game as well. Reece James, I was worried he was going to start at right centre-back, which he did do in the Tottenham game. He still got forward from there, and as soon as he moved into the right wing-back position, he just played like an inside forward. He was so far up the pitch, and obviously it led to him getting that goal. The Liverpool defenders, I've seen that there's quite a lot of sales for Robertson. I think selling a Liverpool defender just before they play a Man United team that are seemingly at the kind of lowest ebb, it is madness for me. I'm not ruling out selling Robertson, but it certainly won't be this week. I think they're just kind of guaranteed points. I'm very confident that the Liverpool boys will come good. And yeah, I just think there's so many good options as well. I think if you want to drop down in price, there's certainly players you can take a risk on. Zinchenko, Cucurella, I thought had a really good debut. If you can get the right Tottenham fullback, I think they're great choices. I think a minimum of 4 at the back is definitely still the way forward. And that leads me on to my second one, which sounds like it's counterintuitive to that, but it's attackers are now a viable option. What I mean by that is that I think last season, by the end of the season, so many people were just playing one up front because the striking options were so poor. I think there's a huge amount of players that were classified as midfielders who ended up playing up front for some of the better teams. Obviously, Man City played with a false 9. Chelsea ended up playing with a false 9. And then you had some of the big stars, Lukaku, Ronaldo, just not hitting the straps. And this year, I think there's loads of options. I think Haaland and Kane, it was a classic weekend for them. Haaland looked like he's not fully integrated yet into the City team, and he still came away with an assist. I think as soon as that starts clicking, he could be massive in FPL. And I think even if it doesn't, he's still going to get points. He's just that good. If he only gets one chance a game, I mean, he easily could have scored at the end, and he also, I mean, Foden should have passed really earlier on in the game, which would have given him a tap in. And Kane not really involved in the game at all and still got a goal. But going down in price, like Jesus, I didn't understand the sales of Jesus this week. I thought he played really well in the first game and he got his results in the second one. But between that sort of 8 million right down to sort of 6 million even, I think there's so many good options. The Brentford boys, Tony, very high up my watch list. If you want to go cheaper for 1 million less, you can get Mbeumo. Ollie Watkins, Ings has started the season as well for Villa. Mitrovic, yeah, he got a -1 this week, but he scores that penalty and it just changes the entire narrative. Suddenly he scored, 3 goals in two game weeks. He'll be one of the top scoring strikers. Still looks a really good option. Wilson at Newcastle as well, 7.5. I just think there's plenty of good options, and I think having at least 2 playing strikers, I think is looking like the way forward for me. And so the third takeaway I've got is believe in Brentford. It's not just because of the results as well. I think from the start of the season, I felt like Brentford weren't going to suffer second season syndrome. I just think they're a good team, but I also think there's a lot of good fancy options. I've got Raya in goal. Like I say, Tony's very high up my watch list. De Silva was a consideration for my first game week. I think he was in an earlier draft. I'm not sure he'll keep up this scoring run, but he certainly looks like he'll keep his place in the team. And the defence as well for them. Henry, I know Ben Mee's been transferred in by a lot of players. I don't think he'll score every week, but Brentford's defence just looks solid. So I think there's plenty of clean sheet points to get there. Yeah, I just think there's loads of good options, and their fixtures are just unbelievably good. So the next 5 game weeks are Fulham away, Everton at home, Crystal Palace away, Leeds at home, and Southampton away. And they're all, at worst, they're teams around them in the league, and at best, they're teams that I think they'll finish well ahead of. So, yeah, just the one Brentford player in my team, but definitely not ruling out bringing in more players for future game weeks. The next one that I've got is bench fodders to possible starters. So on my bench at the moment, I've got Pereira and I've got Williams as well from Forest. Williams I certainly don't expect Nottingham Forest to keep tons of clean sheets this season. It's amazing that West Ham didn't score in that game. So I think the fact they got 7 points is a delight. But he was on set pieces a lot of the time and absolutely bombing forward from right fullback. I can see him chipping in with a few, attacking points this season. And then he kind of reminds me of Livramento of last year, where he was the go-to £4 million defender, but nobody actually put him in their team. And the amount of times people were disappointed by having points sat on the bench, I think there's genuinely an argument to throw them in when Forest have good fixtures. I'm not saying you're going to start them every week. But Pereira's the same as well. He's on set pieces. He was playing so attacking for Fulham in that first game. Almost high up the pitch as Mitrovic, but certainly sitting in the 10 role a lot of the time. So yeah, I think going forward, I think there are genuinely possibilities to throw into your team at various points when the fixtures allow you. And my final one is one of my favourites. It's avoid short-term data. I've gone for Mitrovic and Nunez in the picture there, but I think there's plenty of other immediate takeaways from this week. Both of those are on my watch list. I think the fact that Mitrovic has missed a penalty doesn't put me off him, and the fact that Nunez is missing 3 matches will certainly put me off him, but as soon as he comes back, it doesn't. But I think it's hard to make snap judgments based off just 1 week. I think a lot of people took out Jesus for one of those. Obviously, he was the highest point scorer, 19 points. I mean, it's a killer if you've transferred him out for Mitrovic. But the fact is, going into the season, everybody liked the look of Jesus. He was the most owned player, and then off the back of not even a disappointing performance, but just a 2-pointer was enough to people to get rid of him. I think sometimes you just need to hold your nerve. It's the same thing that I'm saying about Robertson and Trent. I think they're great options. They're great for their price, even though they're the most expensive defenders. I think they'll be the 2 of the highest scoring defenders in the game this year. I think just because they've only had a couple of points in each appearance doesn't mean that we need to be rushing them out of our team. I think if the underlying data shows that they're not as attacking as they were, or that Liverpool's defence has got a lot worse, then fine, you can look at it. But Liverpool didn't give much up in that Crystal Palace game. I thought Zaha looked really threatening at times on the break, but they still didn't have that many clear chances. It's just an excellent finish for their goal, and I think if they got a clean sheet in that, then yeah, again, the narrative completely changes. So ignore the short-term data. If you believe somebody's a good option, just because they have 1 bad game week doesn't mean that they're suddenly a bad option. Trust your judgment on it and wait until you've got a little more info to go off. So that's it for my takeaways leading into game week 3. If you enjoyed the video, then please do leave it a like and subscribe to the channel. I've really Been really pleased to see the views going up on the videos, and I really appreciate anyone who's been watching them. I'd love you guys to interact a bit, so leave a comment, let me know if you like this video, and I'll keep doing them. And I'll see you in another video.